And our next speaker is here to take us along the question, where are we? And what else do we have to do when it comes to infrastructure? Who is the expert?
Absolutely. The expert is Christopher Mennekes. He is the managing partner of Mennekes Elektrotechnik. And I think he can give us a good insight about the infrastructure, which is the key for e-mobility from my perspective, because if we have no electricity for the cars and for the e-mobility, then it will be difficult.
A short ride.
A short ride, right.
So let's see if he's with us already.
Thank you very much. So then, once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak in this forum about electric infrastructure for electric vehicles in Germany. It's quite a vast and a complex topic, to be honest, for 20 minutes for sure. But I'm trying to get some messages across here. Maybe a quick introduction about me and my company. The Mennekes origins. My grandfather founded the company in 1935, and we always thought about plugs and sockets. This is our core business, industrial plugs and sockets. And you can already see over the decades, we have built up a lot of knowledge in R&D and production about this. We consider ourselves world market leader in this sector. And that is actually the origins why we are into e-mobility, and because we were always looking out for new business opportunities. And you can see here the similarity between the products. We had a good plug and developed out of this a better plug to charge electric cars. And you probably have seen that on the news some years ago, that we were able to standardize this plug for Europe, basically, among many other helpers and partners. But we're not only plugs, we also, in our core business, have these energy distribution boxes with sockets on it. And where's a plug, there's always a socket. And so we also entered the business of charging stations. And this is how we came to e-mobility. And to give you a short overview of our group, this is our core business right now with a sales share of 50% in the industrial sector. And then we have two new business units. The e-mobility business unit, which is taking care of all the charging infrastructure, also the software to operate charging infrastructure, wall boxes, etc. And we have a third business unit, which is an automotive business unit, to supply charging cables for cars and also the plugs in the car behind the tank lid, if you will. So these two business units, you can see, have already a share of 25% of our entire business, and this is still growing. We are in a real boom just right now, and this has a reason. I've seen the slides of my pre-speaker, but I couldn't hear him, unfortunately, so you might have seen some of this data already. We have here the different sectors in Germany, the energy producing sector, the industry, buildings, agriculture, and you see from 1990 until 1990 until 2018, there was a reduction of CO2 emissions in these sectors. And the green bar, you can see here, these are the climate targets deriving out from the Paris Agreement. And so there is still a way to go, but there's one sector here in the middle, which is the transport sector. And you can see nothing really has happened between the years 1990 and 2018. So in order to reach this target here, everybody agrees nowadays that the solution to this is electric mobility. We need electric cars to fulfill this. And because, already the penalties, as we know from the EU for the car makers, are quite significant. So everybody is pushing this topic right now, and we're feeling it. But how many cars do we need? This was also, I think, in the slides of my pre-speaker. The NPM, the National Platform of Mobility, it's a counseling platform for the German government. They estimated a number of 9 million cars in total in the year 2030, electric cars. So some plug-in hybrids here, but the majority will be battery electric cars. And this is, of course, a quite number and a real ramp up of this market, and gives a lot of business opportunities here. But these cars logically won't drive without energy. So how many charging points do we need? Charging stations do we need here? And that is a similar ramp up. We have in 2030 estimated over 10 million charging points in Germany, which are necessary to support this fleet. This, of course, is a big challenge. but of course, for us and for many others, a big market opportunity here. When we think about where to install all these charging points, then we have to make one thing clear. A car doesn't really drive. It rarely drives. It parks. So on average, every car in Germany parks 23 hours. So it makes absolute sense to charge it while it parks. So we don't need to go to the filling station or to the gas station anymore. We can just charge it at home, for example, or in the cities or at work. That makes absolute sense, so we don't lose time there. Sometimes, of course, when we do a longer journey, the average journey in Germany per day, per car is 40 kilometers, by the way. But if we have a longer journey, then of course we also need to go to these filling stations, and these are high power charging systems alongside the autobahns, the highways, the motorways. Here you see the Tesla superchargers, but there are also some from Ionity, and this will be this is going to be built up now in the next years as well. But what is the ratio between the private charging and the public charging? This, of course, is public charging. And if we look again on the figures of the NPM, we see that the high power charging is only, let's say, several 100,000 charging points here. The red and the blue line is the high power charging. The gray bar here is AC charging up to 22 kilowatts. Also, I would say not slow, because you can charge a big car like a Tesla car, for example, within 5 hours. This is the public infrastructure, but it is minimal if we compare it with the rest of the charging points. I mentioned the 10 million charging points which we need. So this is really a big challenge here. And you can see public charging only is less than 10% of the total infrastructure we need. Here you see a figure of the NPM. As I said, it's roughly 500,000 charging points. The current discussion, because the figures are already a little bit older, the current discussion talks about 1 million public charging points, which we need. And yeah, if you calculate it, we need usually 2,000 charging points installed per week to achieve that target. At the moment, it's 200. So we are too slow in this sector. We have to do this faster. But again, it's not the critical bit. I think most of the charging points and most of the charging operations will take place in the private sector, as you can see here. Right. One big question I'm always asked is, do we have enough electricity for all these 10 million charging points? And again, our 9 million cars will use, estimated in 2030, additional 18 terawatt hours of electricity in Germany. That is the demand the 9 million cars will have. Now, is this a lot? Is it enough? Is it not enough? If we compare this with the energy, the net energy production in Germany in the year 2019, that was 515 terawatt hours, it is just 3.5%. And this figure should not frighten us at all. This is absolutely feasible. That's not only me who is saying this. This is also the utility companies. It is possible to maintain this with the current grids. So here we don't have a problem. Here it's another view. If we make an experiment and would say all the 40 million cars which we have in Germany, we would switch them to electric, we would need 16% instead of the 3.5% energy. 16% more, but for this number, we have more than 20 years time, I would say. So this is not the big problem. A bigger problem is when all these cars want to charge at the same time. So this again is a theoretical example here. If all these 40 million cars in Germany would charge at a household Schuko socket at home at the same time, here, this is this figure, we would need to increase our current peak power in the net, in the grids, from 80 gigawatts to 144 gigawatts. And if they want to charge faster, let's say 11 kilowatts, which is the normal power which you have in a garage, for example, in a private home, then it even has to go up to 300 gigawatts, and so on and so on. This is the fast charging kilowatt, 350 kilowatt figure, and there we have to go up to a ridiculously 8,000 gigawatts of peak power, which is, of course, is just an artificial number, but it should show you the problem if we would all charge at the same time. So we have to find a solution to this problem. And one solution, one important solution, is grid management or load management. Here on this graph, you can see a normal curve, the gray curve here of a normal household in Germany, which is low at night, then the day starts, here it's lunchtime, and then in the evening it goes up because everybody's putting on their oven and their light, television, and so on, and washing machine. So if we put on top of these the electric cars, that is this frightening curve here, you can see we will quickly reach the maximum capacity of the local transformer unit. So here in this area, we have a blackout, and that is what we want to avoid. So what we have to do is to shift this load profile in areas where we don't have so much power used and we have more resource or more electricity left. And this is, for example, at night. And this is possible, and these technical solutions are developed at the moment, and there are already some developments there, but this is also subject to the current political discussion. So this is a challenge, but technically I would say it is feasible, and it has to work like this. I give you a quick example of a private household. We have a car, electric car, and the wall box there. We have some photovoltaic units on the roof. It's all connected, of course, via the house connection box here to the grid. And if the sun is shining, very nice scenario, we can use our own produce energy to fill up the car. Very nice, but as we know in Germany, the sun is not always shining. We often have to take the energy from the net, and that is getting a problem if everybody does it at the same time. So in order to make our network and our grids more intelligent, we need this little device, which is a smart meter gateway. This will be or installed at the smart meter near the house connection box. It enables the grid operator and the grid operating companies to communicate with our wall box, for example. So if we have too much energy consumed, it is possible to reduce that energy so that a blackout is avoided. In a more modern house, we already have a home energy management system, which actually is talking to all the different electrical devices in the house. So not only the wall box, but also the heating system, the photovoltaic system, all the electric devices are connected, and the smart meter gateway would communicate with this intelligent system, intelligent home energy manager. But a very important point here, and that is the actual political discussion, and it's not decided yet, is that there is a borderline in my eyes exactly here. So this is the realm of the grid operators who can manage and maintain their grid and make sure that there is no blackout at that time. But everything which is beyond that line, all the devices which I have in my house, should be under my control. So I should be responsible and should decide if I want to wash my clothes now or if I want to charge my car. This is a very current political discussion right now. We're not at the end yet, but I hope that this scenario will be the future scenario, so that we as prosumers producing and consuming electricity, that we are in charge of our own household. This would be an ideal example. Main hurdles here are, of course, different market interests of different players and existing regulations and laws. So this example with the household, I've shown to you with the sun is shining. There are also other examples what's possible in the future. We, for example, can take out energy from the car. This is called vehicle to home, where we can use the electricity to run electric devices in our home. This is a little bit of future music because several things have to be done before that, but technically it should be possible. And then we also have an example of a car park, maybe in front of a company. And here as well, it's a similar situation. We have several cars here. We don't have the home energy manager here. Instead of that, we have a load manager here, also an intelligent system connected to the smart grid via the smart meter gateway again, which ensures that we don't have a blackout in the company, so that every car gets the energy it needs, but only to a maximum limit. These are different scenarios. And when we look now in the entire smart grid situation, we have all the different households. We have car parks here, office buildings, we have hospitals, maybe football stadiums as well, with many electrical cars. These are all connected to the smart grid, as you can see here. electrically all connected to the local transformer, and this is connected to the grid. And here we have the poor guy, the grid operator, who has to watch on big screens and make sure that no blackouts happen. That's quite a difficult job. I mean, he's not only doing this there. In the future, there will be also algorithms to help him. But this is a scenario. And to summarize these few points, I can say that charging stations are the connection between the smart grid and the car. The grid operator is in charge until the network transfer point, that is the house connection box I was showing you earlier. And beyond that house connection box, it should be the prosumer who is responsible for his electricity. If it's low or high, he should decide how to use it. So this is the future design of the smart grid in Germany. And the baseline here is that all this charging infrastructure here, which you can see, has to be intelligent. It must be networkable and operated with an intelligent infrastructure management system. That is key. Otherwise, we have a dumb and stupid network, and this will bring us the problems I have outlined earlier. So if you have intelligent devices, intelligent charging stations, you gather a lot of data. Of course, within these charging stations, you have data like authorization data, you have meter readings, you have amount of energy consumed. And in connection with the management system, you even get more data and have the possibility to manage and to work this data to provide more services like infrastructure management, maintenance services, billing, which is very important, of course. This is all coming out of these intelligent infrastructure. And this opens the way for new business models and service business, mainly service business models in the market. For example, the management of an entire infrastructure, contract management, the billing, I've mentioned this, also mobile apps where you have navigation to the station, and in the future hopefully can also reserve a charge point so that you're sure that you can use it when you're there. Roaming, of course, is new to this. We have direct payment as well, which is important. So without contract, when you are on your way, you don't have the contract of a utility company you want to charge, you can do that. These are all new business models, and you remember, we are actually hardware guys. We're producing plugs and sockets. We also entered this business now, founded a joint venture with the utility company Rheinenergie in Cologne, a powerful power cloud software house, and ourselves, in order to provide this backend, this software, to do all these kind of services. This is important because we have learned selling only the hardware doesn't really lead to success. The customer wants a solution, and for that solution, we need intelligent software. So charging infrastructure nowadays is much more bits and bytes and less amperage and current. Right, because of the limited time, I can just give you a short overview over the billing, which is also, of course, important. We have payment systems today based on RFID cards and apps of utility companies. Both things are provided by utility companies, and this is how people are charging publicly when they have a contract with their utility company. And we already have over 30,000, I think 35,000 public charging stations, and roaming is possible between these charging stations already. So this is moving forward. However, the roaming situation in Germany is a little bit problematic, as it's in hand of privately owned companies. In the Netherlands, for example, we have the state, the government, who's doing this, a government department who's in charge of the roaming. In my view, this would be a better approach, but here we are in Germany, we have done it a little bit different. Right, and also, if you don't have a contract, which is important, you need to charge. You can, of course, charge with credit card and your mobile phone. You just scan the QR code on the public charging station, enter your credit card details, and there you go. You can charge your car. Also, a very current political discussion at the moment, because it's compulsory for public charging stations to offer this service. And there was a long time the government thought about making it compulsory to use the German EC card system with the according terminals within every charging stations. It looks like as if we can avoid that, because that would be a German standalone solution, not a European solution, and the credit card works perfectly fine. And we just need to wait a little bit longer before we have a very comfortable situation. This is called the plug and charge norm, which is currently developed. And this means that the contract, the charge card, every data which is needed for a charging operation goes into the car. And all you need to do as a car driver, plug in your cable, hold the plug in front of the charging station, and all the data is exchanged and you can start your charging. So that is very comfortable, and this will be the future. There are already some charging systems available which are supporting that standard, the ISO 15118, and also some cars like the e-tron from Audi, for example, can do this. Right. This was a very fast ride through current topics of infrastructure, charging infrastructure in Germany. There are many challenges in front of us. Some of them we already have mastered, but some are already also or are still in front of us. So there's a lot of work to do, but the business opportunities here are good. And in the end, I believe we create a very, very sustainable system, a very sustainable mobility with this. It is feasible. So thank you very much for your attention. And now it's time for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. It is a huge process. I think this is at least what we get from your input today. And we are at the beginning, but it is worth the work. And we do have a question, actually, and I think we have the time to answer at least one question. So please bring it on.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the lecture and for the brief overview. Within 25 minutes, that was great. And the question is, coming from Norway, I guess, what is the most challenging aspect for cities and communities to push e-mobility to another level, such as in Oslo?
Right. I think infrastructure in cities is a challenge. I think it's it's a little bit easier to do this in rural areas, because most of the houses have their garages and can implement their wall boxes. So what we need really in cities is public areas where people can park their car in the near, ideally, of their home and charge their cars. So we cannot implement too many charging points in the city. This is a major challenge, but one idea could be that we use car parks in front of supermarkets, for example, and talk to these guys that they open their car parks during the night to charge electric cars, because they are also keen on establishing charging infrastructure. And this could be a good win-win situation, for example, for cities. But we definitely also need fast charging for these situations. As I said, it's not possible. Not every city inhabitant has a car park next, an own car space or parking space for him. So fast charging is also one part of the answer here.